Hi, my name is Jennifer Calderon. I am the third generation here at J&J Vending. The company was founded in 1978 by my dad and my grandpa, and in 2012, I actually started the pantry division for us. So we've been doing this for a little over 10 years, specifically in pantry division in San Francisco Bay Area. Um, this guide is really designed to help you create a menu that's going to be robust enough to make everyone in the office happy or to have something available that anyone in the office could enjoy. And so, really, when we look at pantry services, there are four main categories that almost every pantry service includes, and that's the cold beverages, the prepackaged snacks, your hot beverages, so the coffee portion of the program, and then the fresh food. So let's just go ahead and dig into it, and we'll start by going over your cold beverages. When it comes to cold beverages, there's a whole like hierarchy, a little pyramid that we put together to represent this, where really when you look at the base of a good cold beverage program, it's going to include the things that you see here. So almost every pantry menu has 12-ounce can soda, sparkling water. You have to have sparkling water. That's like a must these days. The unsweetened tea is a rising category. That's something we highly recommend you include. I honestly don't think we have any pantry customers in the San Francisco Bay that don't have iced iced teas, unsweetened iced teas, and then milk. Here you see that the milk is in the individual cartons. That has become very popular in this time after COVID. But you could also do full gallon, like family size, half gallons, quarts of milk as well. So really, when you look at a pantry program, if you are just getting started and you're wondering what beverages do I include, start here. And if you are like just getting started and maybe if you don't have that many people in the office, I would say to just even stay away from milk. So you could really like taper this down to just be soda, sparkling water, and tea. And I included a list over here of the most popular sodas, sparkling waters, teas, Coke, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, and a Sprite or Canada Dry. Those are by far the four most popular. When it comes to sparkling waters, these are the three most popular for us. So it's LaCroix, where you might be. It might be Waterloo. Lived in Austin for a while. Waterloo was everywhere. Also Topo Chico. Topo Chico is a huge trending category right now. It's really fun. It's mineral water. There's all kinds of health benefits associated with it. And then for us, Sanzo, these are Asian inspired sparkling waters like lychee. There's a mango and calamansi. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but they're so good. So really when you're looking at your program, again, if I were just going to give you the bare minimum, I'd say do those sodas and then do a LaCroix or your equivalent of LaCroix. When it comes to unsweetened teas, there are two that are so popular for us, and one is Tajava, that's the unsweetened black, and then the Eto N, and that is the unsweetened green. When it comes to milk, there are a few things you want to consider as well. Most companies are choosing to have organic milk, and then they're also choosing to have milk alternatives. So, at the very least, you're going to want to have a soy or an almond milk. Most companies are providing both. And if you want to get like really fancy on it, you can go ahead and include like an oat milk. All right. So after you have the basics, and again, if you don't have that many people in the office, just cut that milk out and really just go with the soda, the sparkling water, and the tea. But once you have that, we would move up the pyramid, and these are what other companies are doing. So once you have the base, now it's time to get a little fancy. And what we see being the two most popular as far as these additional items go are your coconut water and your iced coffee, especially in San Francisco. Cold brew prepackaged coffee, ready to drink coffee is actually what it's called. Ready to drink coffee is so popular. So if you're looking at this, again, you can go through and see the most popular in our in our territory. But really, you could go with any coconut water. You could probably go with any iced coffee and just have very happy team members. When it comes to juice, this is another category where we see people are doing individual cans right now. Pre-COVID, it was much more popular to have like the big family style jug of juice. Right now, that is not the case. Things are still very individualized. We are seeing that starting to change though. So it really is just whatever is going to be best for your office and the culture that you guys have set. When we go on from there, these are the next like extra categories. Did I just, there we go. So I just decided to do them all at once, I suppose. So we could add on a kombucha, or you can go all the way up to the top. And this is when like programs get very diverse, very extra. They include things like aloe, energy drinks. If you're not including energy drinks, don't feel bad about that. Most companies are not offering energy drinks. There's a lot of reasons behind that, including just health reasons. A lot of companies aren't wanting to provide that type of beverage. And then also cost. They're super expensive. And so you could get like 2 cans of soda for 1 can of Red Bull, right? So it really depends on your budget and your culture. Also, we service a lot of tech companies, and their engineers love energy drinks, and so they supply those. But it really just depends on where you're at, what your company culture is. Cannot stress that enough. But again, if I were to create a beverage menu for you right now and you do not currently have anything in place, you would be just so good to go with just the 12-ounce soda, the sparkling water, and then an unsweetened tea. And then from there, you might want to consider adding in coconut water or a cold brew coffee. All right, that takes us to snacks. I'm going to move my face out of the way. Snack programs are so diverse. It really, really varies depending on what you know is popular, what you know isn't popular, what your CEO's favorite snack is, all of those things. But it's pretty safe to say that when you're creating a snack and beverage program, it's going to have something from each of these 6 categories. So a cookie, you're going to have a bar of some kind. You're probably going to have multiple bars. Think granola bars, protein bars. When it comes to candy, individual smaller portions of candy are still very popular. Chips, jerky, and then nuts. A lot of the nuts pre-COVID were in bulk containers. Right now, again, we're seeing the trend go back to those individual servings. Not only is it a sanitary issue that's a concern, but also with fewer people coming into the office, when you use those bulk containers, if it's not being rotated through fast enough, even if they are airtight, the product is going to eventually go stale. And so having that individual package when you are in more of that hybrid state is kind of important. So when it comes to choosing your variety, we always tell people to think of snacks in tiers. So your first tier would be your most cost effective. These are your Fiber One bars, your Nature Valleys, your Jack Links, your Lay's potato chips. Tier 2 is that higher perceived value. They might not actually cost that much more when you're looking at your budget, but they do have a higher perceived value to your team members. And so these are things like Cliff Bars, kettle chips, a higher end jerky like Crave. And then you go to your tier 3. And tier 3 are those better for you products made with whole foods. We call this the whole foods category. So when you're looking at the tiers, think of it in your own shopping patterns. Like, are you shopping at Walmart? Are you shopping at Target? Or are you shopping at Whole Foods? Now, if you're like me, you're probably shopping at a mix of all 3 of these stores, depending on what you're looking for and depending on what your budget is. I love Whole Foods. I would shop and get everything from Whole Foods, but my budget really doesn't allow that. And so I not only shop at Whole Foods, but I'll go to the local grocery store and get some other things as well. And so that's just kind of a way to think of things when you're building your menu. It's really important to take into consideration your budget and your overall health initiatives as a company. Um, Over here on the right hand side, you can see a little graph that was put together, and that's just showing you when you fluctuate the product mix. So, like if you have a smaller budget, that would be that first column on the left hand side. You're primarily going to be offering items in that first tier, and then you might sprinkle in some of those tier two items. The more that your budget increases, the further right you go on the screen, the more you can offer those tier three items. There are very few programs that we currently have out in the field that only offer tier three items. There are programs that offer more of those than others, but you're still going to see a pretty good mix between the three tiers, regardless of what your budget is. That's also just because you are taking into consideration, maybe not everyone in your team is as health conscientious. Maybe when they go to a snack, they're looking for it more as like a comfort. And so you want to have those brands that they're familiar with, then also add in those emerging brands, those better for you brands. You can do health education around those better for you brands. We can always talk about that later to just reach out at the end of this presentation. But I hope that makes sense. The smaller the budget, the more tier one. The bigger the budget, the more tier three you can include. And then anywhere in between, just play and pull the different levers and figure out what is going to keep you in budget, keep your team members happy, and then also keep your shelves full. You don't want to do the thing where you only offer tier three items, and that meant you were only able to buy like 12 granola bars for the week, and then people are like splitting up granola bars, right? Obviously that's extreme. That's not a real thing that would happen, but you get the idea. So when you are looking at your snack and beverage program, there are 4 things to consider, including budget. So how much do you have to spend per person per day? It shouldn't be less than $2, and you probably don't want to spend more than $10 a day. I always thought that the national extremes were ridiculous. It's really hard to be like, oh yeah, go into a meeting like, if you don't know your budget, it's fine. Just plan something between $2 and $10 a person a day. That's not very realistic. What I will say is if you have a smaller head count, you probably will a lot more per person per day. If you have a larger head count, you will probably a lot less per person per day. Just because of the way the numbers work out, you can actually, if you have like an office of 1,000 people and you're doing $2 a day, that's $2,000 to play with. If you have an office of 20 people and you're doing $2 a day, that's only $40 to play with. So you can't really get a whole lot for $40. After you figure out the budget, then it's time to figure out preference. Do your team members enjoy healthier snacks? Do they want more of those comfort food snacks? All of that is something that you really need to know, and you can figure that out as well as the diet specific needs that we're going to talk about just by sending out a quick survey. So when you look at your diet, do you have things in your pantry that are going to really include everyone? So are there team members that you know of that stick to a vegan or a vegetarian diet? Do you have some team members who have a peanut allergy? Do you have someone who is gluten intolerant? You want to know these things so that you can include items in the snack and in the beverage categories that really cater to everyone. And then something that's been growing in popularity, and for good reason, is inclusion. Is as your team is becoming more and more diverse, do you have snacks that represent everyone's cultural background? Do you have snacks? Do you have comfort foods that would be considered comfort food for different people in the office, or do you only have traditional American snacks? If you only have traditional American snacks, you might want to start considering what having a more diverse program would look like to make everyone in the office feel more included. Next up is fresh food. Now, I will tell you, fresh food got a little go a little somewhere. I will tell you, fresh food used to be this huge staple in pantry programs. It still kind of is, but with a lot less emphasis. The reason for that is because with more and more offices working a hybrid remote schedule, where maybe on Mondays and Fridays you have almost no one in the office. Tuesdays you have all of your all hands meetings, so there's a lot of people. Wednesday and Thursday you have no idea. Sometimes it's 50 people, sometimes you're the only one in the office. When you have that type of work environment, it's great for a lot of reasons, but it's not great for shelf life of fresh food. So things like your hard-boiled eggs, your string cheeses, your yogurts, those all are going to expire. And so you want to make sure that as we're including these staple items, that we're not sending too much, that you are not purchasing too much, because you don't want to run into a situation where you're just wasting food. And so the good news about most of these things in the staple category is that they still have a relatively long shelf life, like the string cheese, the Tillamoos, the hard boiled eggs. They're not going to last forever, but they're not going to go bad in 2 days, kind of thing. And so a lot of companies are still providing these staples, but in smaller quantities than they were before. So maybe you have a plain yogurt, you have the yogurt with honey, and then maybe you do one fruit yogurt, so a strawberry yogurt or a blueberry yogurt, where before it was the staples of the plain and the honey, but then also like five different fruits, like five different chobanis, and then two siggies, and like three dessert yogurts. And it's just, there's not enough consumption right now to demand that. So when you're looking at your staples, definitely think yogurt, hummus, individually wrapped like baby carrots, hard-boiled eggs. Hard-boiled eggs have always been and will continue to be the number one item in pantry, I think, for as long as pantry exists. And then your individually wrapped cheeses. When you go into fresh fruit, this is another one that we've seen kind of taper off. Some offices are doing it, some aren't. These three that you see here, the bananas, the oranges, the apples, those are in every pantry menu that is offering fruit. Those are your staples. When it comes to fresh fruit, a lot of companies like to do seasonal fruit. And if you do decide to do seasonal fruit, it's usually in the summer months really popular to do like an apricot, a peach, a plum. Clementines, when they're in season, are really popular. What's really difficult in pantry are things like berries. So blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, those are difficult just because of the communal aspect of the container. And then also what we found out is a lot of people, they get excited. There's strawberries, yay. And what they do, instead of just taking like a few to their desk or in a bowl for themselves, they'll take the whole carton, and then it's like, what just happened? So anyway, I would steer away from berries if you can, unless your work culture supports it. Other extras in the fresh food category that we're just really not seeing a lot of right now are your bread products, your bagels. With that, if you do place a bagel, make sure you have cream cheese, individual butters, peanut butters, those type of things. And then also what's really popular but not included nearly as often as it was pre-COVID are the little packs of celery. So a lot of times if you have the individual bags of carrots, companies also like to include the celery, but that's definitely included as an extra, not as a basic staple. So with fresh food, I would say proceed with caution, bring in a little bit at a time, see how it does. And then if you end up having to throw too much away, just send out a mass communication to your team members, letting them know you will be happy to bring yogurt back in once demand requires it. Last but not least, we have office coffee. Now, coffee, you guys, coffee would be its own presentation. It is so important. But a lot of times people call in to our offices and they say, oh my gosh, I have no idea what to do for coffee. I don't drink coffee. Someone put me in charge of this. What is happening? And so if you're one of those people, These three things are what every coffee program needs to include. And that's regardless of the type of equipment you have. If you're wondering what equipment you should have, there's a link to a 2-minute quiz you can take at the end of this presentation, and it'll let you know the difference between air pot brewers, bean to cup machines, single cup machines, all of those things that you're going to need to know the terminology for if you're going to manage a coffee program in your office. But the only three things you have to know you need to include are these. First and foremost, obviously, the coffee. If you're only offering one regular coffee, we suggest that you make that a medium roast. A lot of programs will do 3. They'll do a light, a medium, and a dark. But if you only have the need or the space, the desire, the budget, however it works out for one, do a medium roast. And then also a decaf. With the decaf, you can get away with just having like those instant coffee, like the Via sticks from Starbucks. Not as many people drink decaf, but more and more people are drinking decaf. And so you want to make sure that your coffee program includes those people. But you don't necessarily want to brew an entire pot of coffee for one person. They're going to have a cup and throw away the rest. So again, think about sending out that quiz, see how important decaf is to your office. And then also with tea, people can get crazy with tea. We usually recommend offering 6 to 8 varieties. That's what the tea racks usually hold, where they hold the boxes. It does a nice job of the display. But if you only want to offer 3, do a black tea, so like an Earl Grey or a breakfast, English breakfast, do a green tea, and then do a decaf. Always decaf. We have to remember our decaf friends. And then last but not least, this is a really great area to put some of those sustainability practices into place. So when possible, use real silverware, use ceramic cups, use that dishwasher, have people clean up their dishes. I know that can be a whole other issue. And so if your culture isn't in support of that or can't maintain that right now for any one of many reasons, then just make sure this is where you are choosing compostable products. We use a brand called World Central, but there's World Centric, but there are a lot of brands out there that are using compostable products. We highly recommend that if you are going to include paper goods, that you make them sustainable. All right, that's it. That's it for this freebie, you guys. There are a few more things. If you want any more than what you got right now, you can go and take that 2-minute quiz. That's going to let you know what equipment is the best for your office. You can also schedule a free consultation with me. You can choose the best date and time on my Calendly, and then we'll just go from there. In that consultation, I'm just going to make myself available to answer any questions that you might have, and we can start going over your menu to see, is there anything lacking? Do we need to reconsider what you're offering? And I can show you how to determine that. And then also you can always email or call in. So that is our support@jnjvendinginc.com email. That's the database that all of us have access to. If you email in with a specific pantry question, they will forward it to me. And then you can also call 1-800-863-VEND if you have any more questions. All right, you guys, I hope this was helpful. Thank you for taking the time to go through this resource. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I absolutely love helping people build snack programs for their offices. Have a great day.